April 17th, 1945. A muddy ditch 3 kilometers outside Heilbronn, Germany. 19-year-old Luftwaffe Helferin Anna Schaefer lay pressed against cold earth, shaking. Her uniform hung in shreds. Blood crusted her cheek. She'd been there 3 days, hiding from the Americans she knew were coming. Above her, boots thudded on gravel. Male voices spoke English. She closed her eyes and prayed they wouldn't see her. Then the voices stopped. A shadow fell across her face. She looked up into the barrel of an M1 Garand rifle and the exhausted, dirt-streaked face of the soldier holding it. Before we dive into the moment that changed 2 lives forever, hit like and subscribe so you never miss untold wartime stories. And drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. Now, back to that ditch in Germany where a terrified young woman waited for death, and a Brooklyn soldier was about to make a decision that would ripple through decades. Anna threw her hands up and screamed in German. Bitte ten Sie mich nicht. Please don't kill me. Private First Class Vincent Vinny Rossi, 22 years old, Italian-American from Bensonhurst, stood frozen. He'd seen plenty of prisoners in the 3 months since crossing the Rhine, but none looked like this. None looked so young, so broken, so utterly convinced they were about to die. He lowered his rifle slowly. Anna squeezed her eyes shut, waiting. Vinny took a step closer. His grandmother had taught him enough German to get by in bakeries back home. He tried a word. Ruhig, calm. Anna didn't move. She was trembling so violently her teeth chattered. That's when Vinny noticed the smell. Sharp, rotten, unmistakable. Infected flesh. He knelt beside her, slinging his rifle across his back. Anna flinched. Vinny raised both hands, palms open. Easy, kid. Easy. He leaned in and saw at the back of her jacket, soaked dark, not with rain, but with something thicker. He reached toward her shoulder. Anna screamed again and tried to twist away. Vinny didn't hesitate. He grabbed the torn fabric at her back and ripped it open in one clean motion. Anna's scream turned into a sob. She thought this was it. The stories she'd been told. The things they said Americans did. But Vinny wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the wound and swearing in Italian loud enough to wake the dead. The gash ran from her left shoulder blade down to her ribs. Green pus oozed from edges blackened with infection. Maggots writhed in the deepest part. Shrapnel glinted under torn muscle. Vinny turned and shouted over his shoulder. Goldstein! Get over here now! Corporal Daniel Goldstein, the patrol medic, came running. Jewish, 24, from Vienna, escaped in 1938 with nothing but a medical textbook and his father's prayer shawl. He dropped to his knees beside Anna, took one look at the wound, and hissed through his teeth. Jesus Christ, how long has she had this? Vinny glanced at Anna's face, pale and drenched in sweat. 3 days, maybe more. Goldstein shook his head. She's got hours. Maybe less. Behind them, the rest of the patrol had formed a loose perimeter. Sergeant Bill Kowalski from Detroit watched in silence. 2 more privates, Murphy and Chun, stood with rifles ready, eyes scanning the tree line. They were part of the 100th Infantry Division, the Century Division, veterans of the Vosges Mountains and the Maginot Line. They'd been fighting since November. By April 1945, they'd seen it all, or thought they had. Anna opened her eyes and saw them standing there, 6 American soldiers, all armed, all staring. She started crying, not sobbing, just silent tears running tracks through the dirt on her face. Vinny pulled a canteen from his belt and held it to her lips. "Drink." She hesitated. He tipped it gently. Water spilled over her cracked lips. She drank like she hadn't tasted liquid in days. Because she hadn't, Goldstein was already working. Sulfa powder from his kit dumped straight into the wound. Anna screamed and arched her back. Goldstein held her down with one hand, kept pouring with the other. I know it hurts. But you're going to die if I don't." He pulled out a morphine syringe, bit off the cap, and jabbed it into her thigh. Anna gasped, then slowly her body went slack. The shaking didn't stop, but the screaming did. Goldstein looked up at Vinny. "We need to get her to the aid station. Now, she's septic. Fever's probably 104, maybe higher. If we don't move her in the next hour, she's dead." Vinny didn't ask for permission. He slid his arms under Anna's legs and shoulders and lifted her like she weighed nothing. Because she didn't. 90 pounds, maybe less. Starvation and infection had eaten her alive from the inside. He turned to Kowalski. "How far to the aid station?" Kowalski checked his map. 2 miles, maybe 2.5. Vinny started walking. "Then let's move." The entire patrol fell in around him. No one questioned it. No one hesitated. Kowalski took point. Murphy and Chun flanked. Goldstein walked beside Vinny, one hand on Anna's wrist, checking her pulse every 30 seconds. They moved fast, faster than regulation, faster than safe. Anna drifted in and out of consciousness. Once she opened her eyes and saw Vinny's face above her, jaw set, eyes forward. She whispered in German, "Why are you helping me?" Vinny didn't understand all the words, but he understood the question. He looked down at her. "Because you're a kid, and you're dying, and I'm not." She closed her eyes again. After a mile, Vinny's arms started shaking. Kowalski stepped in without a word, took Anna from him, kept walking. After another half-mile, Murphy took over. Then Chun. They rotated like a relay team, never stopping, never slowing. Goldstein kept pace, kept checking her pulse. At one point he looked at Vinny. "It's dropping. We're losing her." Vinny grabbed Anna back from Chun and started running. The aid station sat in a commandeered farmhouse at the edge of a bombed-out village. Vinny kicked the door open and shouted, "Medic! We need a doctor now." A captain with a Red Cross armband looked up from a table covered in bloody bandages. He saw Anna in Vinny's arms and his face went hard. "She's German." Vinny didn't break stride. "She's dying." He laid her on an empty cot. The captain hesitated. Vinny stepped close, voice low and cold. "You're a doctor." "So, doctor." The captain looked at Anna's wound, then at Vinny, then back at the wound. He nodded once. "Get her into surgery." 2 nurses appeared, lifted Anna onto a stretcher, and carried her through a side door into what had been the farmhouse kitchen. Now it was an operating theater. A surgeon, Major Thomas Brennan from Boston, scrubbed his hands in a metal basin and glanced at the new patient. "What have we got?" One of the nurses, Lieutenant Margaret Shaw, pulled back the shredded uniform. Brennan's expression didn't change, but his voice did. "Get me a scalpel, forceps, and every vial of penicillin we have left. This girl's got maybe 3 hours before sepsis shuts her down completely." Vinny stood outside the surgery room, back against the wall, still covered in mud and Anna's blood. Goldstein sat beside him, elbows on his knees. Neither spoke. Kowalski brought them coffee in dented tin cups. They drank in silence. Hours passed. The sun set. Night fell. The door finally opened. Major Brennan stepped out, still in his surgical gown, splattered red. He looked at Vinnie. "She's alive, barely. We pulled 14 pieces of shrapnel out of her back. Removed half her left shoulder blade. If you'd been 30 minutes later, she'd be dead." Vinnie nodded slowly. "Can I see her?" Brennan shook his head. "Not tonight. She's sedated. Probably won't wake up for 2, maybe 3 days. Come back tomorrow." Vinnie came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Every evening after patrol, he walked the 2 miles to the aid station and sat in a folding chair beside Anna's cot. She didn't wake up for 4 days. When she finally did, the first thing she saw was Vinnie asleep in the chair beside her, boots still muddy, rifle propped against the wall. She tried to sit up. Pain shot through her back, and she gasped. Vinnie woke instantly, hand going to his rifle before his eyes even opened. Then he saw her awake, and his face softened. "Hey, you're back." Anna stared at him, at the clean white bandages on her shoulder, at the 4 in her arm, at the small teddy bear someone had left on her pillow. She whispered in broken English, You tore my dress." Vinnie's face went bright red. "Yeah, to save you. Not for the other thing." Anna started laughing. Weak, painful, but real. For the first time in years. Vinnie laughed too, more from relief than anything else. Lieutenant Shaw appeared with a tray of food. Real food. Bread, soup, applesauce. Anna stared at it like it was gold. Shaw smiled. "Eat slow. Your stomach's not used to it." Anna ate, slowly. Every bite tasted like a miracle. Over the next 6 months, Anna stayed in the hospital. The infection had spread deeper than anyone realized. She needed 3 more surgeries, physical therapy, antibiotics that were still experimental. Vinnie extended his deployment twice just to stay nearby. Every weekend he visited. He brought her chocolate from care packages his mother sent. He taught her English slang. She taught him proper German. They talked about everything except the war, where they grew up, what they wanted to do after. He told her about his grandmother's bakery in Brooklyn. She told him about her father's bookstore in Stuttgart. He told her about Coney Island. She told him about the Black Forest. Slowly, the girl who'd been hiding in a ditch became a person again. October 1945. Germany had surrendered 5 months earlier. The war in the Pacific had ended in August. Vinnie's division was scheduled to ship home in November. Anna was being released from the hospital. She could walk now with a cane. Her shoulder would never be the same. But she was alive. On her last day, Vinnie showed up with a small box wrapped in brown paper. He handed it to her without a word. She opened it carefully. Inside was a dress. Sky blue, simple, beautiful, new. She looked up at him, eyes wide. Vinnie knelt, awkward, clumsy. His hand shook. "Anna Schaefer, I tore your dress once to save your life. Now I'm asking, can I put a new one on you for the rest of mine?" Anna's hands flew to her mouth. Tears spilled over. Lieutenant Shaw, watching from the doorway, started crying too. Anna nodded. She couldn't speak. She just nodded, over and over. Vinnie stood and pulled her into a careful hug, mindful of her shoulder. She buried her face in his chest and cried so hard the nurses thought something was wrong. But nothing was wrong. For the first time in years, everything was right. They married in the hospital chapel in April 1946. exactly 1 year after the day he found her. Major Brennan walked her down the aisle. Lieutenant Shaw was her maid of honor. Goldstein was Vinnie's best man. Kowalski, Murphy, and Chun sat in the front row in their dress uniforms. Anna wore the sky blue dress. Vinnie wore his service uniform and couldn't stop smiling. When the chaplain said, "You may kiss the bride," Vinnie kissed her so gently it barely counted. She kissed him back hard, enough to make up for it. Everyone cheered. Anna laughed until she cried again. Vinnie carried her over the threshold of their tiny apartment in Stuttgart because her leg still hurt when it rained. They moved to Brooklyn in 1947. Vinnie went to work in his uncle's construction company. Anna took night classes and became a teacher. They had 3 children. Margaret, named after the nurse. Vincent Jr. and Elena, after Vinnie's grandmother. Every year, on April 17th, Anna wore the sky blue dress. Every year, Vinnie told the same joke. "I'm the only guy who tore a girl's clothes off on the first date and still got a yes." Their kids groaned. Their grandchildren rolled their eyes. But no one ever stopped smiling, because they all knew the story, the real story. The one about the soldier who saw a dying enemy and chose to see a human being instead. Vinnie died in 1994. Heart attack. Quick. Painless. He was 69 years old. Anna held his hand in the hospital and didn't cry. She just smiled and whispered, "Thank you for tearing my dress." The funeral was huge. Hundreds of people. Students Anna had taught, men Vinnie had worked with, their children and grandchildren. Goldstein flew in from California. Kowalski's son came from Michigan. Murphy's daughter drove from Ohio. They all told stories. They all cried. They all hugged Anna and told her how sorry they were. She thanked them, and she meant it. But she wasn't sad. Not really. She'd had 48 years with a man who'd saved her life and then spent every day after making sure it was worth living. April 17th, 1995. Dawn. Stuttgart Cemetery. Anna stood alone in front of Vinnie's grave. She was 70 now. Her hair was white. Her back was bent. She still walked with a cane. She carried a small cloth bag. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was the sky blue dress, still perfect, still the color of the sky the first morning she woke up and didn't feel like she was dying. She spread it over the gravestone like a blanket. Then she took out one more thing, a piece of torn, blood-soaked fabric sealed in glass, the scrap of her Luftwaffe uniform. The piece Vinnie had ripped open 50 years ago. She laid it on top of the blue silk. "Vinnie," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "You tore my dress once to give me tomorrow. I wore this new one every April 17th for 49 years. Today I bring both back. So you know I never forgot." She knelt carefully, her bad leg protesting. She kissed the stone. Cold marble under her lips. She cried the way she had the day he proposed in the hospital. Big, shaking sobs that hurt her chest. A groundskeeper watched from a distance, tears running down his own face. Anna stood slowly. She straightened her back as much as it would go, and she saluted, American style, the way Vinnie had taught her. Then she turned and walked away. The blue dress stayed on the grave all summer, through rain and sun and wind. It never faded. Every April 17th after that, visitors to the cemetery found a fresh blue ribbon tied around Vincent Rossi's headstone, and one red rose. No one ever saw who left them, but the groundskeepers knew They'd seen the old woman with the cane, moving slowly between the graves, touching the stone with one hand, smiling like she was 19 again, like she was lying in a hospital bed, waking up to see a muddy soldier asleep in a chair beside her, like she was hearing him say for the first time, "You're back." Anna Rossi died in 2003. She was 77. Her children buried her next to Vinnie under the same stone. They placed 2 items in her casket: a folded American flag and a small piece of sky blue fabric, cut carefully from the dress that had spent 8 years on her husband's grave. At the funeral, Margaret, their eldest daughter, named for the nurse, stood and told the story one more time. The story everyone knew, the story that never got old. About the day a terrified German girl thought an American soldier was going to hurt her, and instead he tore her dress open and saved her life. "My father used to say," Margaret told the crowded chapel, her voice thick with tears, "that he ripped that uniform because he was tired of seeing dead kids. He said he didn't care what flag they wore. He just wanted one of them to live." She paused, wiped her eyes. "And my mother used to say that the moment she felt that fabric tear, she thought her life was over. But it was just beginning. The cemetery in Stuttgart still gets visitors, people who've heard the story. Historians, students, romantic couples. They leave flowers, notes, photos of the headstone with 2 names, birth years 69 and 63, death years 9 apart. Visit on April 17th, and you'll find a blue ribbon and red rose placed by grandchildren who keep the tradition alive. Some stories don't end. They change hands. April 17th, 1945. A muddy ditch outside Heilbronn. A 19-year-old German girl expected to die. A 22-year-old American soldier refused. Tearing her dress to heal, he saved a life and began one mercy creating generations. Some dresses are just cloth, but some are the exact moment someone decided you deserved to live. And some love stories don't end with death. They just change color, from blood-soaked field gray to sky blue silk, and they keep shining forever.